Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Afif Rifqy, and right now I'm going to answer some of the question about short-term memories and interpreting. So let's get it on. Okay, so the first question is, what is the correlation between short-term memories and interpreting? So interpreting requires the interpreter to process and retain information in their short-term memory, while simultaneously producing an equivalent message in the target language. So this process demands an active listening, comprehension, analysis, and linguistic formulation in real time. And next is what are the exercise to improve short-term memories? So I guess for short-term memories to work properly, an effective processing of sounds into non-words and afterwards into portion of information, the effective storage of this portion, and the retrieval at the right time of this information is required. So the ideal would be to work on each of these aspects separately, but unfortunately this is not possible. So this exercise that I suggest we involve all of these aspects. So the first exercise is shadowing. So for this exercise, the text used should be relatively small, but may increase for gradually in size. So if you work alone, record a text or use a speech from the television or a radio. And if you work in a group, your friend may read the text while the other repeat it. Next is shadowing with a twist. Almost the same as the first exercise. It involves repeating exactly what a speaker says in the same language. However, in shadowing with a twist, this repetition is done after a short pause following the speaker utterance, which make the shadowing more like a consecutive interpreting. So this adjustment to conventional shadowing eliminates the difficulties related to the listening and speaking. At the same time, it allows the interpreter to focus specifically on memory. Next is the uh, next exercise is freer shadowing with a twist. So this exercise should be done once the interpreter has practiced shadowing with a twist and can repeat a longer utterance without a problem. So this is where the interpreter should test not only acoustic memory, like memory of it is a memory of sounds, but also his or her memory of meaning. So in this exercise, the interpreter does not just repeat blindly what has been said, but where possible says the same things using other words. Next is attentive listening for key elements. So careful listening is an important element for memory recall. First, attentive listening requires identifying speech key points. Like for example, you should be capable of listening to a short narrative or a descriptive text and answer the quick question who, what, when, where, why, and how. So in this exercise, any descriptive or narrative text may be used, and you may record the text if you're practicing alone, or you may ask a college to call or your friends to read it, and if you're working in a group. Next is progressively expanding the capacity to recall. So, good memory must be developed gradually. So, in this exercise, first the interpreter should listen to the text once, at least once, and identify the main ideas, then hearing the text again for the second times. So, this times the interpreter should be able to add more details to the main ideas. By the last pass, the interpreter should be able to recall all the details. But actually, it won't be necessary to recall all the details from the start. So the ultimate goal is to be able to reproduce all the details in a speech of around 50 words after hearing it just once. So in this exercise, any descriptive or narrative text may be used. You may record the text if you practice it alone. And again, If you're working in a group, you can ask your friend to read it. Next is visualization. So most people are visual learner. This is they remember things they see better than something they are told or read. So image remains in our minds much longer than abstract information. In any case, there are speeches that invoke visualization naturally, and the interpreter should be able to identify them and use visualization to retain and recall. So, image should be visualized step by step in a sequential order, helping the interpreter recreate a whole scene. So, visualization exercise may be completed with oral recall, or in some case by drawing the image in that involve. In other words, recalling memories does not always have to be done through words. So in this exercise, any descriptive or narrative text may be used and you may record the text. And if you practicing alone, again, you can ask your friend to, I'm sorry, if you working in a group, you can ask your friend to read it. Next is segmentation. So in this seven exercise, it is based on the concept that it is easier to retain a number of limited chunks with information that just one or two larger dense chunks. Okay, so segmentation involves breaking a larger chunks of information into two or more smaller ones. So this exercise can be performed use both oral and written text. The segmentation can also be both oral and written. You should be able to read the sentence only once and then segment it. The text should be contain long sentence and dense information. And exercise number 8, recognizing incoherent or ambiguous message. So this exercise aims to help you recognize incoherence or ambiguity in a speech, which is in itself also a way to recall the speech. So after you heard a relatively incoherent or ambiguous text, you should be able to identify what aspect is incoherent or ambiguous and explain what makes it so. For example, in the sentence like mm, Michael asked Miguel to sit still and then he got angry. So in that we don't know if he refers to Michael or Miguel. So once the incoherence or ambiguity has been identified, it may be recalled and dealt with the at the production stage of interpreting. So this exercise aims to merely identify the ambiguous or incoherent segment, and in an attempt to recall it and not to deal with it in any particular way. So ambiguous and incoherent sentence will be needed. So you should collect any example of this you might come across. And I guess this is the last exercise. It's remembering message that you disagree with or you find offensive. So confirmation bias describes the tendency to favor information that confirms one personal belief or hypothesis. Even if someone tries to interpret evidence in a neutral manner, the interpreter, he may be recall that information selectively. So this effect is called selective recall or confirmatory memory or access bias memory. So in short, it is harder to remember information that goes against what we believe in. So one way to deal with such information is to put yourself in the speaker place. And in other words, you take yourself out of the picture and identify with the speaker, because in doing so, you will be able to temporarily bypassing your personal belief and prejudice and assuming those of the speaker. So to practice this exercise, start by summarizing a controversial text and then move on to the foreshadowing with a twist. And next exercise. Okay, there, that's the last exercise. So I guess that's all that I can say.